everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Nice to see all you fine people. I got a lot of story to get through, and I don't got a ton of time, so I'm just going to get right into it if you guys don't mind. I suppose I'll start by saying that this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there and tell you how I became traumatized. Yeah, that's where this story about my trauma. Can I get a hell yeah? Can I get a hell yeah? Thank you. All right, so it begins and hopefully it ends with me having a dinner with my family. And I'm having this dinner, this was last summer. And this was the dinner where I came out as queer to my family. And this is at the age of 33, you know? And so there are a lot of reasons why, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into this particular dinner that makes it resonant. I happen to be wearing not my own clothes at this dinner. There is a reason for that too. I suppose a good place to go to from there would be the circumstances of my birth. The circumstances surrounding my birth are mysterious and not really known. So, here's what is known. My mom lived in Hong Kong. My dad was an airline pilot who had a route to Hong Kong. She happened to be 17, I think, something. She was young. She was sneaking into bars underage. She met my dad, who happened to be in his 40s, which, is gross, but like, everybody acted all cool with it, and so like I grew up and I was like, all right, you know? So, anyway, my dad was never home really. He was a pilot, you see, so like we'd stay home. 2 years later, we wound up in Sylmar. That's my mom. She's pregnant with me. I'm born. We're in Sylmar, right? Sylmar, California. Anybody heard of it? Famous because of its earthquake at a magnitude 6.5 earthquake, which is like that's a pretty good earthquake. I don't know why I'm being defensive about my earthquake, but it's a magnitude 6.5 earthquake. I remember not being woken up by the earthquake. I was woken up by my dad. My dad woke me up. And it wasn't the earthquake that could do it, but he was a mighty man. He is dead now, but before he died, he was mighty. Now not so much, but before, very much so. He had a big voice. He was scary, right? That's what I remember. He was mean too, but he was mean in these kind of ecstatic ways where he could be really like he would fly off into it, and it'd be this journey of rage, you know. And so he terrified me growing up. But to his credit, he never. You try to say something nice about anyone, right? You know, my dad he had a lot of not so nice qualities. You know, he was rage filled, and he was kind of mean spirited, and he was adamantly racist. He was like vociferously racist, like in ways where he was just like, not even kind of the subtle ways that people are normally racist, where they're just doing racist things. They're like, oh, absolutely not. I would never do anything racist, you know, like, but in a way where he's like, I characterize and judge people based on what race they are. Like, that was kind of his thing. But to say a nice thing about him, he never burned me with a cigarette on purpose. The one time he did it on accident, he happened to fall on me, and I suppose it was in a drunken stupor. But he happened to fall on me, and he happened to be holding a cigarette, and so he did burn me, and he also threw a wine glass. It's unclear. Once again, the circumstances surrounding it are mysterious. Everybody I could verify it with is gone. So what happened is a wine glass got thrown across the room. I heard that he attempted to hit my mom with it, but it's unclear. They fought a lot. They fought like, I don't know, what's the thing that fights? Wolverines in Heat, right? Fight like Wolverines in Heat thing. So, yeah, they scrabbled, they fought, and I would often listen to them fight. I would hide under the desk in the office where they would fight, and I would listen to them scream at each other for hours, right? And one day, the fighting erupted into this violent confrontation. Thereafter, my dad and my mom were separated. I lived with my mom. Now this was after we had immediate family that had moved from Hong Kong to Southern California with us. However, they had moved back because of some business thing or something that I didn't care to understand, nor do I care to understand. But they moved to Canada, all the way in Ontario, Canada. So my mom is functionally alone with 2 children, and she is not quite an adult. She's never really had to be an adult. She always kind of relied on my dad, and she never knew anybody in the country or had any friends. So, in a way, my mom was the most profoundly lonely person that I had ever known, perhaps, to this day. In that state, she gradually went insane. So she lost her mind. She began seeing things that were not there. She began thinking that people were after her, sort of like paranoid schizophrenia type things. And so we went ahead, we did that for a while. And just me and my sister, just sort of like battling it out. And it's weird, kids don't talk about that stuff, so nobody knew, But I'd just go home and everything would be crazy, topsy-turvy all the time, just sort of like, she once thought I was trying to poison her using poison that I was directing through the ventilation system because she found in a medical book that was in my room for some reason, like a little dog ear on a page, which was barely visible. And she thought I was being clever by making it so small. But that was the kind of thing, like she would yell at you for hours in tears, And so we did that for a bit, and then basically, then my dad died, at which point she kind of fell apart, and she sent me to live in Canada. I lived in Canada for a couple of years. That was okay. And then after that, I got sent back to live with my mom, which is absolutely against what I had wanted to do up to that point. Like I was kind of becoming a well-adjusted teenager. I was weird, I was always weird. I was a weird kid, I'd bite people and stuff like that. But I was becoming pretty well-adjusted. So, I don't know, like regrettably I got sent back, and then a whole lot of stuff happens. I'll condense it because I want to get to this dinner. So, what happens is my mom leaves and she never comes back. This is when I was 20. So this was 13 years ago. She leaves, never comes back. I happen to have the opportunity to talk to her one last time because she reached out to an ex of hers for money. And he happened to notice that something weird was going on. So she was just sort of on the road, just like packed a bag and left. He calls me, lets me know she's staying at so-and-so hotel. Here's the phone number to the room. So I call her, and she picks up the phone, she answers sweetly. She says, "Hi, honey," right? I say, "Hi." I go like, "Are you okay?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. I'm doing great." I go like, "Do you need anything? Do you need like money or help or anything?" And she goes, "No," right? Like everything was fine. And so I said, "Okay." And then knowing that that would be the last time I would talk to her, right? And so I hang up, and so it was. She vanished. She disappeared. Never heard from her again. And that's not true. I heard from her again. I forgot. We found her earlier this year. So earlier this year, she happened to be living in Pahrump. I just got this phone call from my aunt. My aunt was saying like, "Oh, turns out like your uncle's in Las Vegas. Long story short, we found your mom." and he's on his way to her house. If you'd like to talk to her, she's gonna be there in 15 minutes, right? So I had this opportunity, like, wow, I could talk to my mom from across this great gulf of time and everything, you know. So I go ahead and I say, no, absolutely not. Like, there's no way I would do that. And then I realized, wait, no, I absolutely should. So anyway, long story short, I'm going to condense that too. We started a podcast together. We're doing a podcast together now, me and my mom. Yeah, you can check it out. We did one so far. It was weird. I'm going to tell you, it was strange. But yeah, anyway, it all goes back to this dinner, like, it was just this fun, weird, profound experience after, because I did not talk to these people. I'd lived with them for that stretch of time in my childhood, and in a lot of ways they were more like my parents than my parents, you know. And so I reached out after, because we just stopped talking. There was something about my mom leaving that just separated us. So I got married this past year. I reached out to my family and I invited them. And they came and we kind of reconciled, and like they invited me over to their place in Canada, so I went this past summer and we had this dinner, and then they were just like, so what's all this about you being queer? And I was like, oh yeah, like, I didn't really think I had a lot of, like, in a way there's a lot of benefit to being like a total like little satellite, you know, like I just never had anyone, and no like moms and dads coming to my comedy shows, right? Like, that's a bummer. And well, I guess that's the only upside I can think of right now. But it's a good one. It's a good one. Anyway, that was yeah. I don't know. Like I was kind of trying to explain it to them, because I kind of try to explain it to myself too. Like sexuality, I think to me, like I think a lot of people have like, and God bless them, they have a like wonderful and extremely articulate and very defined like vision of what their sexuality is, and I'm like so the opposite. My sexuality to me is a big question mark, because what does your sexuality mean to you if you do not have sex, right? So like I just like, I don't know, I never figured it out, and like I was worried about other stuff in my teens, I didn't figure it out in my 20s, and like now I'm married, so it's a big question mark. But I just like felt kind of, and this is what I'm saying to my cousin, and like I felt kind of like divorced since my 20s from a sense of masculinity. And this is before they invented gender. So yeah, like I don't know, I just like kind of, does that make sense? And he looks at me and says, no, it doesn't make any sense. And then I look at him and I look at everybody else at the table. I got my maternal grandparents there, I got my aunts, my uncles, like all my cousins, all their friends. And I say to them, I like big, hard cocks. Like big, hard cocks. That's what I like, and that makes me queer. Is that cut and dry? All right. So that has been my time. Thank you guys so much.